In this video you will learn how to use my BSP anti-decompile protection tools. First of all, you will head over to my website, jacobsaylor.com, and when you scroll down, there will be a download button right here. So go ahead and download that. But before we open up the tool itself, let's scroll down a little bit further and find the available products. When protecting a new map that hasn't been protected before, so it's not an update of a previously existing map, you will have to buy a new map protection license. So go ahead and add that to your cart. In my case, I got some coupon codes ready, so I'm going to add those and proceed to checkout. Usually you will get a PayPal link here. It's also going to ask for an email address. Doesn't have to be any specific email. For example, I've used a trash mail address. That works as well. I'm going to go ahead and place that order. And we should receive an email quite quickly here saying that the order is processing. Now it might take up to 5 minutes for the order to be processed, and the license will be sent to you within the next email. Okay, it's a couple minutes later and I've now received a second email. I'm not quite sure why it took that long this time. It might be that I'm using a trash mail, but within you can find that you now have a license. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And now let's open the tool itself. I'm just going to extract it to my desktop and open it up. And you're presented with this window right here. The first tab is the protection tab itself. There's also 2 other tabs that I might get into later. If you want to protect a map, the first thing you want to do is select the BSP file that you want to protect. So you can either use the browse button right here and try and find it through the file browser, or you can simply drag and drop it onto that text field. Then it asks you if this is an update. And since this is not an update, I'm going to leave this checkbox unticked. There's also some additional options you can enable. For example, there's entity relocation. Entity relocation simply takes all those entities that don't rely on any specific location within the map and puts them all together in one spot. So for example, logic relays, math counters, those sort of things. And this will make it harder for anyone trying to reverse engineer your map I/O to figure out what's going on. There's also entity extraction. Entity extraction takes all the information about the entities and stores them into an external separate file and removes the information within the BSP itself. And the nice thing about the entities is that they only need to run server-side. So if you're planning on hosting this map exclusively on your server, you can strip the entities from the BSP and host them on your server only. So anyone who's trying to play the BSP not on your server or tries to host it on a different server will have all the entities missing. So I'm going to go ahead and enable that. It's going to ask you to verify that this is indeed the case. So only if you're running this on a server it makes sense to do this. If you wish to release the BSP on the workshop, you might not want to do that since you're giving out all the information to anyone anyways, so there's no point in extracting the lump file. I'm going to assume that this map will be running on a server though, so I'm going to press OK. Next, there's the entity garbage. And as I've explained before, the entity information gets stripped from the BSP itself. So that section within the BSP is now empty. That gives me the opportunity, or the tool rather, to insert new entities into the BSP. So anyone who doesn't have access to the lump file will see those entities instead. So for example, I placed some entities in there that will make messages appear on screen. So you can put a little tag in here. This map has been protected. Go away. And this will show up in-game for anyone who doesn't play the map on your exclusive server. Now I'd like to bring your attention to the top right of the tool. And this is a panel that is probably the most complicated of the whole tool. And here you will have to specify the VMT file locations. VMTs are little text files that Valve games use to define surface properties and other things of textures used in game. So whenever you apply a texture in Hammer, it will point to a VMT file. And since VMT files are not contained within the BSP itself, but in the game only, you will have to specify the locations of those VMTs. You can either specify local folders, which is probably what you're going to do if you have any custom content. Choose pack file, which is a section in the BSP itself where you can pack assets into the BSP. Or you can choose the Valve VPK archive format, which is archives located in Valve games that have all those assets packed into them. So by pressing add, you can choose between those options. I'm going to go ahead and pick pack file, and you should probably always include this, because there is things like cube map textures that are unique to the BSP compiled. I'm also going to go ahead and select a VPK archive. But let's just say you don't really know what a VPK archive is, and you don't want to deal with it. You can choose auto from Steam library. And the only thing you have to do here is specify the location of where Steam is installed. And it will automatically detect all those VPK archives that are installed on your local machine. Since this is going to take longer than the manual way, I'm going to remove those again and add VPK archives myself. For Gary's mod, you will have to select 2 VPK archives. One of them is in Gary's mod, and in Gary's mod, and then this _ directory VPK. And the other one is in the Gary's mod folder as well, but not within the subfolder Gary's mod, but in source engine, and then Half-Life 2 MISC directory. If you're happy with your selection, you can go ahead and press the pre-protection test. And you should see this pop up here, found 0 issues. This is what you're aiming for. If you get anything else than 0 issues, it might be an indication that you either forgot to add a location here, or if you're confident that you have everything packed into the pack file and your selection only looks like this, it might be an indication that you forgot to pack something into the BSP itself, and that should be sorted first. Let's just remove the pack file from the selection and see what happens. So if I run the pre-protection test again, it's going to spit 153 issues at me. So the best option is to just re-add the pack file. But if you know what you're doing and you want to have more manual control, you can also manually select surface properties here. So you can either click and select, or you can select all and then auto fix. This will guess what surface properties these textures should have. And if you really don't care, you can also select and ignore. But really you should try and find all the locations in this panel up here and get a 0 issue pre-protection test. Now that all the configuration is complete, we can go ahead and protect the BSP. So if I go and press the button right now, you're going to see that it tries to protect the BSP, but it will return an error because the given license is not correct. So from the email from earlier, I can now copy and paste the license and run the protection again. And now it returned this window right here, and this is asking you where you want to save the protected files. I'm going to put them on my desktop and hit save. There's also a window coming up that's asking you if you want to rename the BSP. And it's recommended to do so, because this makes it so you cannot confuse the unprotected and the protected version of the BSP. So I'm going to press yes. You can also review the service if you want to. And then you're finished. At this point, I want to focus on the files that have been generated. It has generated a folder And within that folder, there's a couple of files. You will find the BSP file itself with the _obf extension. If you had the entity extraction selected, you will also find a lump file. And then there's this weird looking image, and this is a fingerprint. I'm going to go into detail on what that does later. And there's also a README if you want to read up on some more information. This is also helpful for anyone trying to set up a server with server-only protection. I'm going to go ahead and open my Garry's Mod location. And put the protected map inside of the file structure. So I'm going to copy the gm construct obfuscated, paste it in here. And let's have a look what it looks like in game. Let's start a new game. Select the protected map, so not the regular one, but the one with the _obf, and start a new game. And right away you can tell that something's wrong here. First of all, the skybox is missing. There's manhex spawning. There's all these messages floating around and also popping up on my screen. So as you can see, this is not very playable. It's not easy to tell on gm construct, but all the entities are missing as well. So for example, this funk illusionary right here, completely gone. All the dynamic entities are also gone in here, the dynamic props. So let's get out of here. And now imagine that I'm running my local server. So this is now the server side of your server inside the maps folder. I'm also going to copy the lump file into here and then just restart the same map again. And as you can see, everything looks pretty normal. And in fact, there's nothing different from an unprotected map in here. So in game, you cannot tell that something's been done to the BSP itself. It is very important that you do not give the lump file to anyone you do not trust. So this BSP file is what you would put in your fastDL, or you could even put it on the workshop. But the lump file should only ever be on your server and nowhere else. As soon as you give up the lump file, people can gain access to your entities. There is still decompile protection, of course, but having access to the entities means that other people can host your map on their server as well. They might not be able to edit it or decompile it, but they can host it. So make sure that this file is treated like a valuable item. Let's try and decompile the map. So I've got BSP source here. And now one thing to note is BSP source will detect lump files in the same directory. So if I were to decompile it here, it would actually give me the entities. So I'm going to move it to the desktop and decompile the protected map. And right away you will see that there's something weird going on. Let's open up the VMF. And oh my, what's going on here? This is not looking like gm construct anymore. Pretty much all of the brushes are missing. The brushes that are remaining have all scrambled textures. And there's a grid of entities. And if we go closer to one of these, oh look, that's what we put in earlier. So not only will it show up in game, it will also show up in any decompile attempt. Let's say you have an update for your BSP file. So you spent some time and you got some feedback, and now you want to change the map itself. So you go into Hammer and make some adjustments and recompile. But now your BSP is unprotected. So what do? Well, you can go to my website again, and in the shop, you will find that next to the regular protection, there's also a way cheaper update protection. So let's get one of these licenses. Again, I got a coupon for myself. And I've specified the same email as before. It's been a couple minutes again, and I've received the email. And right here you can see map update protection, and here's my license. So let's copy that and head back to my tool. But you might be wondering, can I not just get the update license in the first place and save a lot of money? Well, this is where the fingerprint comes in. So as you remember, there was this image created and also a backup of that image. And you can use this file to verify that the BSP that you're protecting is indeed an update of a previously protected map. And to verify that that is indeed the case, you can head over to the fingerprint validator. And you can select the fingerprint and drag and drop it into here. And you can select the updated version of your map. So for example, let's just take the same map again. And here you can press compare. And that will see how much these two match. Obviously, because this fingerprint was created from this very map, I'm going to get a 100% match. Let's take a different map, for example. Let's say you wanted to be sneaky and you bought a full protection license earlier, but now you want to protect a different map, but save on some money. Let's see what this gives me. Only 14%. So as you can see, only genuine updates are eligible for update protection. Let's go over to the BSP Protection tab again. And I still got all the settings in here, but it would be more realistic if you were protecting an update of your map that you will have to go through the settings again, since a lot of time would have passed. Now I want to enable this is an update checkbox and also provide my fingerprint. And this is still my old license, right? So let's just try to reuse my old license again. The provided license has already been redeemed. Okay. Then let's just use the new one that I just bought. And this time it's taking a little bit longer. And here again, we are presented with the save option. Since I don't want to overwrite this folder, I'm going to select it, so the new folder will be placed inside of it. Afterwards, there's also the same question again if you want to rename the BSP. All right, and now we got the update of the BSP protected without having to pay full price. If you run into any issues during your protection process, you can go to the About tab where there's a bunch of helpful information and click the bug report button. In here, you can tell me what's wrong and leave a contact and send off that bug report. Please make sure that it's more in-depth than what I just put in here. If you're having trouble at any of these steps, you can always click the question marks. These will show you a little GIF telling you what you can do and also a written explanation. Other than that, there's nothing else to say. And if you've made it through to this part, then I hope that you consider this tool as a viable solution to getting your maps protected and protect yourself against map theft.